Faisal, we left off the last segment starting to get into an issue that I'd like to bring right front and center, and that is that I spend a lot of my time, in fact, almost all my professional time, traveling internationally, very often to places that the people who know me say, you know, how could you possibly enjoy going to spend time in these countries? And I almost invariably bring back pictures, if I can, video. I've taken recently the habit of taking a flip video with me and taking movies. And almost inevitably, and lately for me it's been China is where I've been mostly, they can't even believe the pictures. And I believe that Pakistan is another one of those countries where the popular media in America creates a certain picture, a certain image. And let me be frank, sir, it's not a pretty picture and it's not a pretty image. But I think that the reality of what's happening in Pakistan is very different from what many people in our listening audience may believe.
Well, David, thank you very much for raising this concern. Now, this is also a question which is very close to our heart as well. We believe that perceptions and realities, they're two different things as well. Now, when we talk about Pakistan, Pakistan is a nation of 170 million, which has been there for the last 65 years on the map of the world. This is a nation, this is a country which has sponsored the concept of aviation industry. Our pilots, our engineers, our aviation authorities, our Pakistan International Airline, they initially trained the Emirates and the other Gulf region airlines to how to develop their systems to empower themselves. Pakistan has been at the forefront of many initiatives and many innovations. There's a lot of good that has been sponsored by Pakistan, may it be in terms of sports or education or business and opportunity. Now the problem is that we are trying to make a world a safer and a better place to live. And especially to do so, we are fighting a global war on terror. And at the very heart of that war on terror comes in Afghanistan. And to be successful in the war on terror in Afghanistan, United States is working in close partnership with the Pakistan, both civilian and the military government. So now when these guys have been taken to task, they are on the run. And once they're on the run, they are coming to our cities, to our towns and here and there and creating chaos, and they are creating a lot of trouble. Now, who is paying the price? The civilians, our students. Last year in a local mosque attack in an urban elite suburb of Pakistan, 2 students from our institution, they lost their lives. Officers, civilians, loss of property, loss of assets, loss of lives. So these things are happening in small pockets where we are trying to fight this menace of terrorism and extremism out. By and large, Pakistan is represented by 1,000-kilometer coastline, strategically located. We've got a very vibrant civil society, a media, independent judiciary. We've got a digitally literate society. Out of the entire population of 170 million, we have mobile subscriptions of 55 million. So the tele density is nearly 36%. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the world and the media, they need to realize that how big the country is, and they are fighting for the betterment of a modern world. And for that, everybody needs to have the bigger picture. The bigger picture suggests that there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of business, trade, education, and a lot of good things happening within Pakistan and outside Pakistan. And one good example is when you see the expatriate Pakistanis working as engineers, doctors, scientists in your communities here in the United States, some of the finest doctors, some of the finest engineers, some of the finest physicists, entrepreneurs here in the United States and in the rest of the world, they are from Pakistani origin. So yes, Pakistan does benefit from this negative publicity and this perception, but then again, we must realize the United States of America and Pakistan, we are fighting a war on global terrorism and extremism. And at the very heart of this war comes in the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Minus that, everything is a good news. They're nice places to go out to. They're extraordinary institutions. They're local radio stations, television stations. They're restaurants. They are places to hang out to. People are driving good cars. there are clothes, there's McDonald's, there's KFC, there are Marriott hotels. You name,
Well,
you name it, we have it, everything.
I might say, though, that our contribution of KFCs and McDonald's are not a net positive for your culture.
No, actually, on the other side, Pakistanis, they love it. They love KFCs and McDonald's, and they also consider it as an activity to go on to these outlets. Whereas it's a way of life in the United States. But over there, people do take it a little seriously.
In some ways, it actually is a bit of a frustration of mine. I've got my daughter is 15 and my son is just turned 12. And in some ways, I feel bad that by the time they start traveling around the world, there probably will be very few places that don't have Big Macs. And one of the allures of travel, I think, is to indulge and learn about the local culture. And I think in that respect, sometimes what we export is not the best of American culture, but the most expedient. But nonetheless, yeah, I see KFCs just about everywhere I go these days.
I mean, no, by and large, the Pakistan-American friendship is the one which is based on common values. It is a strategic relationship. Very recently, Pakistan has been affected by a natural calamity in the form of floods. Nearly 1/5 of the country has been swept away by these floods, costing the economy and the loss of property. It costed up to nearly $10 billion. So, I mean, such a resilient nation, such a resilient economy, that recently 1/5 of the country was swept away in these devastating floods from the north straight down to the south. And before that, we had internally displaced persons, those who came up from the northern areas. And much before that, just 2 years ago, we were struck by the earthquake, the 8th October earthquake.
Yep, I remember that.
I mean, as a nation, we are very resilient. We are very hardworking, and we know that we have to build together. And we are working in close partnership with our friends in the United States, and also United States and the American people. They were the first one to respond to this disaster of floods, and all the helicopters, and especially there were 4 hours rescue, relief, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. In both the rescue and the relief efforts, the role and the support by the people of the United States and the United States government, I mean, it's unprecedented. And the people in Pakistan, they are grateful and they are thankful to the people in the United States for such a support.
Well, I personally tend to think that different countries, obviously we have very different cultures. We have, in some cases, a different basis for our governing systems. And different countries, and I think Pakistan would be one where there is more influence of religious belief on the governing system than in the North American side. On the other hand, it's also been my experience that the more people do business together and the more intertwined their economies are, the more they're likely to step back from strongly felt ideologies and say that as long as our economies are intertwined and we're both getting mutual benefit, then we've got to find a way to work together, because at the end of the day, there are no more frontiers. The world has been explored all the way around. Unless we start going up and out, we've got to make it work on the territory that we've got. With that in mind, maybe we could talk a bit about some of the Pakistan connections with some local companies here in Pittsburgh that have been success stories, because I think that many in our audience, they may not know of these, or they may wonder, well, are there any local companies successful doing business in Pakistan, and how's it going for them?
I think social and cultural ties, they do break ice, and to bring together 2 different cultures and 2 different countries, it is very important to demonstrate and to scale people-to-people and cultural and social ties. On your first question that, Pakistan may have a religious mindset in terms of its governance, Pakistan is a very moderate and a progressive democratic country, and in no part of a government in Islamabad or in any provincial setup, religious thoughts, they overpower the federation's thoughts. So the governing system is based on the federation. The mindset is very liberal. It's very progressive. There's equality. There's gender equality. I mean, we were the first country in the world. We've had twice We have had the female prime minister in the form of Benazir Bhutto. We've been managed by a female head of state, and I wonder if in how many countries are there in the world those who've been managed by a female head of the state.
Well, not the one you're in now.
And then you're talking about cultural ties and relationship. Here we stand today in Pittsburgh on the invitation of the Pittsburgh Middle East Institute. And one classic example is that a very old friend of mine from Pakistan who's been living in the United States got married to a gentleman who is working at the Carnegie Mellon University. And that bond of cultural and social integration brought the Carnegie CMU representatives to Pakistan, and they've had some great discussions there. And then in return, the friendship was scaled to such an extent that here we stand together on the platform of the Pittsburgh Middle East Institute. In terms of the companies, there are a lot of United States companies that are doing business in Pakistan, and Pakistani companies are working in partnership with the U.S. companies. We are working in the sectors of defense, energy. We are working in education. Nearly 5,000 students from Pakistan, they enter the U.S. universities on undergraduate roles, and they pay full international student fees. The energy companies, they're working in oil and gas exploration, liquid gas, drilling. There are also companies that are working in healthcare, in pharmaceutical. There is a friend of ours who's based out in Boston. He is working in partnership with Harvard Medical International. They're trying to build up a world-class medical and nursing institute and a teaching hospital in Pakistan, which is a $500 million program. There is a Pakistani-American doctor. Let me also point out it's very important for expatriates Pakistanis, for overseas Pakistanis to contribute, to give something back to Pakistan, and not me just as a visitor on David's show, but they on regular basis should help improve these perceptions about Pakistan and should sponsor bridges between both the communities as well. So there's a Pakistani-American entrepreneur who's just recently established a $100 million bedded hospital, a $100 million funded hospital by the name of Quaid-e-Azam International Hospital in Islamabad. So there are a lot of success stories, and there's a lot of good news as well. And my message to the audience tonight is that 6 months ago, I did say this morning as well. I was here with Ambassador Patterson, who just served as the U.S. ambassador in Islamabad, and we were at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government up in Boston. And during our discussions, this point came up, and somebody from the audience said that, "Ma'am, how do you expect us to do business in Pakistan? Well, we know that the climate is invested and business friendly, but then again, when we open the news and the television, there's something bad and negative happening there." So the Ambassador Patterson responded that many years ago, she was the U.S. ambassador in Colombia, and at that time, irrespective of what was going on in Colombia, she invited U.S. companies to invest in Colombia. And 10 years down the road, the benefits for the U.S. companies were enormous. So the message is that you don't got to do the business in those areas where you don't need to be. You just need to do business because it's a large consumer base, it's a vibrant economy, the policies are investor friendly, and the cost of doing business is very cheap.